So this is going to be a follow-up video around my views on abortion and just to kind of clear up the air because I did a whole video on Stevie Knight versus Abba and Preach. I did a whole segment about like disagreeing with the with the section of Abba calling Stevie evil, other people calling him evil and messed up, or calling Charlie Kirk evil for his stances, and I just don't think it's that simple. I think, like, just to kind of cut to the chase, right? Fuck everything else. To cut to the chase, I think abortion is a nuanced as fuck topic, and I see both sides of the equation. At least I try to. I think abortion, to cut to the chase, is wrong. I think it is, at least at minimum, amoral. I think it is pragmatic. I think it makes sense. I think it has purpose. I think there's function to it, but I don't see abortion as moral. I don't see it as right. I do see abortion as just perverting the value of life itself. However, I also see abortion as a tragic solution to many problems that could be greater than if abortion doesn't happen at all. I fully understand the purpose of abortion in cases of rape completely. When Charlie Kirk mentioned the whole, like, I wouldn't have my daughter have the abortion, I think, as a personal, honest statement, I think his stance is very unsettling. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it makes him evil. Not at all. I don't think, because I truly believe you can only be evil based upon your intentions. And I truly don't believe Charlie Kirk had evil intentions with what he said about having his daughter have the baby. I just see it as very unsettling, and I see it as objectively amoral, morally good by intention, and overall just complicated as shit, right? I'll say why. And this is where I get Stevie's point against Abba. He was saying, like, yeah, like, Charlie Kirk is a Christian. At the end of the day, if you don't believe in spiritualism and you don't believe in, like, any higher power or any other thing, morality becomes really fucking hard to argue, to even call abortion or killing anyone or anything or whatever it may be wrong. Charlie Kirk is a Christian. He does innately believe in the value of life. I'm sure if you would ask Charlie Kirk, should you go out and kill X, Y, and Z person, he would say no. Even grown people. You get what I'm saying? Like, so that's why I'm saying I get Charlie Kirk's point from the perspective of a Christian. And if you're not a Christian or spiritual in any way, whether it be Buddhist or whatever other religions there are, and I'm agnostic, I'm not even fully blown a Christian, it's really hard to argue any moral ground because you don't have any objective ground to stand on. You have a ground to stand on in terms of common opinion. You have a ground to stand on in terms of social structure. You have a ground to stand on in terms of minority versus majority, yes. But does that make it right, per se? Like, is the right the law? You get what I'm saying? Like you have, like, at that point, right versus wrong becomes flexible to a fault. You basically fall for everything because you kind of stand for nothing. So knowing that, that is one aspect that I do actually admire about, at least one of the aspects that I do admire about, like, religion, even though logically I don't know if God exists. I don't know as a fact, to be quite clear. So that's why, when I see Charlie Kirk take such a strong stance against abortion on the grounds that he does, I don't think he's a monster for it. He just values innocent life. Now, do I see that life as being a life? I'm going to be frank with you. I don't see, if the baby isn't, like, if the brain hasn't developed, I don't see, even besides the heart, if the brain hasn't developed in any way, shape, or form, I don't see it as a life. However, I don't think that it's meaningless at the same time, as many, people who are pro-abortion will tell you that it is meaningless. I think that's just nihilism without saying it's nihilism. It's what they call opportunistic nihilism. No, not opportunistic. It is I used the wrong word. It's optimistic nihilism in my opinion. Because all of what I'm saying is not really statistically proven or anything else like that, and I have to admit fault if I'm going to be intellectually honest about this whole thing, and that's what I want to do. My goal is not to win; it's to clarify a perspective. What I am going to say is, yeah, I don't agree that life is only when you have a heartbeat or whatever it may be. I believe it's when you have the brain. Do I have anything to kind of prove that? Absolutely fucking not. Because I've heard both sides, and pro-lifers more so argue that life begins at conception. That's what they more so argue. And I have nothing to disprove that or anything else like that. And from what I've seen, I've never seen any valid counter arguments against that. Or whatever counter arguments there have been against that have not been founded or agreed upon by scientists or whatever it may be. If there is, provide it to me, and I'm not saying you can't provide it to me. I'm not claiming that either. Again, my goal is not to necessarily be right, but no, it's just to kind of clarify my POV. But the point that I'm getting at here is that, so far, I just haven't seen any valid counter arguments against the claim that life begins at conception, except from opinionated statements. And that's what I'm kind of giving this video to a lot of. But my point is, I think this whole topic itself is opinionated. So I don't think there is any way around dodging the opinions per se. This whole thing is kind of opinionated itself. It's delving into politics and it's delving into philosophy, which there is no, common foundational ground that everyone can agree upon. And that's the only way to really win a debate. It's to have a foundational belief that two sides can agree on. If that doesn't exist, no one's going to win. You're just going to clarify your perspectives and talk it out. But, it's not going to necessarily end in any win by any means. So, let me also say that, I believe that life begins when you have a brain and you develop, at least in some capacity, any sort of awareness at all, whatever it may be. So, however, what I do see I do see abortion as is a perversion of what life means itself. You're kind of killing the potential for life. And to me, that itself is an act that is not necessarily full-blown evil, but I see it as, again, very amoral. It lacks morality. It's pragmatic. It has reasons, but it has benefits to it as well. Probably also has a lot of drawbacks too. But it still, I see it as just not morally good. At least the pro-life position, to me, has a code that it does stand upon, and it attributes value to life itself. So does the pro-abortion stance. It does too, because it's just that it values the woman more, rather I should say. It values the bearer of life as opposed to the life within the womb. You get what I'm saying. So, knowing that, that's why I'm saying, for me personally, I don't see either side as evil. I see both sides just is the glass half full, half empty type shit, is what it really is. Both sides have their reasons. They do. Whether or not it makes you unsettled to come to that realization or whatever. That's why I can't look at someone like Stevie and say he's a monster, he's evil, he's a bad person. And I misunderstood someone in the comment section. I'm not going to say their name because I'm not trying to attack anyone in my comments or bring negative attention to them. So if you want to give me negative attention, I really don't care. I'm cool with that. I made this channel for the sake of having a conversation, so that's okay. But what I am going to say is, when it comes to what I saw in the comments, someone was saying that they didn't call him evil, they just called him bad. But bad, okay, bad isn't quite the same thing as evil. Evil's more extreme in terms of being bad. Still, I don't even see it really as full-blown bad per se. I don't think he's a bad person. I just don't. I think there are also bad persons who believe in abortion. Again, I still think it is perverting the value of life itself to be pro-abortion. That's why I can't get behind it. At the same time, in my opinion, I don't believe the government should be allowed to tell a woman what to do with her body. That's my stance. If I don't trust Uncle Sam with my money, why would I trust Uncle Sam with my or my daughter's body? I don't believe Uncle Sam should be allowed to bring men randomly into war. I understand the pragmatic decision behind it, but I don't agree with it. But yeah, I just don't see abortion as being a good thing by any means. I just see it as tragic necessity or tragic solution that should be available in the worst case scenarios. But the problem is, even what I just said implies a restriction of some sort. Only way to really enforce that is by giving power to the government, which again, I don't trust the government with my money. So I don't trust it with women or myself or any person in general, right? So that's why I'm saying personally, I just I don't agree with the government coming in to say what to do. They've infected streams of water in other countries for the sake of in the name of science. Like the government has done fucked up things. Go look at all the different experiments they've done, whether it be on animals, whether it even be on human life itself, like fucked up torture experiments on life. The government, like the US government. To be fair, other governments do fucked up shit too. They just take less heat for it than the US. But like all governments, I don't trust any fucking government. None. None of them. Some are just more honest than others about the fucked up shit that they do. Nonetheless, I've heard someone else in the comments mention like statistics. And I don't know if I'm being redundant, if I already mentioned that point in the video already. I don't really know all of what I've said in the past. But just to briefly go over my view on statistics, right? A lot of rape, it's the minority of situations in which abortions take place. It is the minority. Again, I'm fully for having an abortion at no cost in the event of rape, things like that. I'm actually for free healthcare. I align with a lot of what the left says. With free healthcare, I'm for immigration. Not like blindly just allowing anyone to the country. I'm not for that. But I don't believe an immigrant should be deported if they've went like 10 years or 6 years or even 2 years without doing shit. Like they're not committing crime. They're clearly getting a degree. They're like going through school, whatever it may be. I don't think you should be deported. Like I don't give a fuck if they came here like the circumstances or whatever. It's just I'm for the people more than I am the land itself. Point blank. America's stolen land, bro. Like shit. But I'm getting off topic when I go into immigration. That's for a whole other video. What I'm gonna say is this. When it comes to statistics, rape is the minority. It is. So the majority of situations, And it's not going to be on paper, it's not going to be on survey. A lot of it really comes down to irresponsibility. Now, the word irresponsibility is an opinion, it's an adjective. Irresponsibility, it's used to describe something. But the thing about it is, when it comes to the surveys, a lot of people, like, no survey is going to say, like in multiple choice, did you have an abortion because you were irresponsible? Like, no, the paper's not going to say that. You know, the paper is going to say, it's going to give you a bunch of reasons like financial instability. It's going to give you like a collection of, root causes and stuff, but it's not going to say irresponsibility, because that's kind of a matter of, how do I say it? It's hard to describe what that term really means in context. I don't know how to like fully articulate what that is. But to say that it's irresponsibility, even if it is, most people aren't going to answer that shit point blank. No one's going to go through that and say, yeah, because I was irresponsible. Most people aren't going to say that, and it wouldn't make sense for a survey to say that. The surveys are going to get down to like the exact causes, again, which could relate to health. In the event, like, let's say the baby's going to come out with deformities and the parents don't believe that they'll have enough money or coverage to cover this child's health, to give them, the optimal living situation. I empathize with that. I don't necessarily full-blown agree with it. I do think, like me personally, I came out with a shitload of issues. I did, with my health issues. And there was warnings that I would have came out with certain issues. And would I have liked it if my mother had like aborted me? You get what I'm saying? So me as a living example of that, I can't bring myself to hate pro-lifers when they say something like that. Again, I empathize with people who have the child anyway, or not even that. I empathize with people who say like that you should abort the child because you can't give them the optimal living circumstances. But like, is that really your measurement for what determines the value of life? Is whether they're living the optimal life? Even if they're miserable, you'd be surprised. Shit can change. It doesn't mean that it will. But like, just because the odds are stacked against you, does that mean you should just give up? Because that's what you're kind of doing. You're forfeiting its life on the. You're basically giving up right there, and that's why I'm saying like I just don't agree with that. I morally, I don't agree with it. I get it. I don't think it's evil, but I don't agree with it. I think it's kind of nihilistic. It's kind of momentarily nihilistic. It's a one moment in your life. Obviously, you'll have many other moments to have children potentially, but and I don't know. Does like abortions mess up the womb? You tell me in the comment section. I don't know, but to me, it makes sense that it would. It would probably mess up. If you have too many abortions, it would probably ruin your chances of getting pregnancies in the future. But I don't know how true that is. That could be old information. That could be false. I don't really know. I have nothing to back that up. And even me myself, I'm human. I need education on the topic too. But there needs to be a certain level of intellectual honesty, with this topic, I believe. Still, my point that I'm getting at is a lot of people just have babies because, not babies, a lot of people have abortions just because they didn't want to wear a condom. It didn't feel good. And I've experienced this myself. I'm not going to call anyone out, but even in my own personal life, there was a girl I was dating, and she was like, I had the condom in my hand, and she would take the condom. I know, TMI warning. She like she threw the condom to the side. She's like, I don't want to use a condom. I didn't do it, and I was a virgin. I was eager to get my rocks off, and I still didn't go through that experience because I knew better. Like I was like, there's no way I'm gonna have sex with this person and abort, and abort my potential son or daughter. Like, I don't want to do that. I can't bring myself to do that. And after my mother passed away, that feeling just further compounded. I was like, can I ever abort my grandmother's child? Not my grandmother's child. My child's grandmother's. Fuck, I'm confusing the shit out of myself. This shit's horrible for people with tiny brains, bro. But anyway, you get my point. Like, I can't abort my child, my potential child, slash my mother's grandson or granddaughter. I can't do that. So, and I think it's just because I value the potential for life itself. Not everyone does. It becomes a glass half full, half empty type question of what your moral barometer is, and it really depends upon your foundational values, whether or not you can see it from certain perspectives. And I can't really say everyone is wrong who views it differently, things like that. And they can't say that I'm wrong and be logically coherent either. So nonetheless, yeah, I just think that this is a loaded topic. I don't think there's a clear right versus wrong. I don't think Charlie Kirk is a demon, even though I disagree with his decision. I don't think Stevie Knight is evil just because he said that abortions are killing babies or wrong. I don't agree that it's killing babies, but that would also depend upon what scientists overall agree on. And that also depends upon your own values as a person as well. And whether or not you believe in objective morality to begin with, or subjective. So yeah, I think it's just crazy talk to just demonize the other side. It's literally crazy to determine whether or not someone deserves like their downfall on that premise alone of whether they're pro-abortion or not. I think it's just crazy talk. We're all fucking human in this shit together, man. We're all fucking human at the end of the day, bro. Point blank, Stevie Knight's a fucking human. He just is. So is Charlie Kirk. I think some things that Charlie Kirk said were kind of wild and crazy and like were said in not the best eloquent way. I disagree with a lot of what Charlie Kirk said. I do. But as I mentioned before, we're all flawed and human. Point blank. My brain's getting tired. I'm done with this video, bro. Subscribe. 1,000 subscribers.